Right, should be streaming on both YouTube and Facebook now. So cool. Oh, yeah, this system seems to be working. Okay, folks, coming up at the top of the hour, so just a few minutes. If you want to fast forward, if you're watching an archive version, about 5-6 minutes. Otherwise, you get a bit of Boris. Bless him. Right, okay, let's have a good show. Friday the 13th. Whoa. Blimey. Hold on. Oh, there you go. One, two, da di da. Oh, hold on. Ooh. Oh, blimey. There you go.
Seems to be working.
Right, now we're streaming on Facebook too. Hey!
Oh, look at that. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. We'll be right with you. Hold on. Daily Brexit, live at 5.
6.
Tuesday. This thing, doesn't it? But it's actually 6. 6, coming at the top of the hour. Daily Brexit.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Hold on.
1, 2, da di da.
There you go.
There now follows an appeal for tuck from the Right Honourable Boris's Johnson MP.
Oh, stop that. Stop. Are we on? Oh, sorry. Shoeshine. Right. Hello, Bojo here. Or maybe it's his sister, I can never quite tell. Prime Minister of the Hen Parties on Thames and the wider empire. Or at least I will be. There's no need to be pedantic. Now that I was in the Commons tea room the other day, playing as bottom rugger, and Johnny Scrum Down, my old fag, right flanker, David Moron, mentioned to me about the Daily Whatnot. And we subsequently had a bit of a chat about it over luncheon at Old Bully's. Some of Mrs. Merkin's finest spit-roast pork, as I recall, and Johnny Scrummy too. But I digress. Thing is, I think it's pretty clear that we were all rather surprised when the great British plebs decided for Brexit. And none more so Scrummy too. But I digress. But thing is, life. And a man must think it's pretty clear that we were all rather surprised when the great British plebs decided for Brexit. So here I am to tell you why you need to dig into your pockets and get behind this Connelly character. And I'm not talking any of that prep school thing. And of course, and as Moron pointed out, we never thought Connelly would amount to much at all. After all, he wasn't even in the JCR. But it does look like he's hit onto a tip-top idea, a show that's invested in unifying disparate chicky-chappy groups for the common aim of upholding, give me a minute, democracy.
There you go.
What a wheeze.
Yeah.
Sounds like a corker. I say
idea.
give it a go. So look, if you've got a bob or two, bung over a bit of cash, because a chap does have to eat. And besides, he needs a bloody haircut. And it looks like he can't even afford an old boy's tie. So, look, that's it. There's really not much more to say, except a mo, a mart, a mart, a marmot, a martyrs, a med. Because old Moggy is not the only one who knows his Greek. See you on the beaches. And if Moron turns up too, I'll tell him to put a shirt on so we don't have to scare the fish. Right, thank you. Moron, stop it. Right.
With thanks to the Honourable Member, Daily Brexit, holding democracy to account, one show at a time. And now we return you to Olly Connelly.
Oh, God. Hold on. Oh, blimey.
Live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m.
Live at 5.
Weekdays, for
Tuesdays
goodness
and
sake.
Thursdays.
Blimey, 6
Daily
o'clock.
Brexit.
Yeah.
Yes, coming up soon.
Daily Brexit. Actually, it says 5 in this thing, doesn't it? But it's actually 6. 6. Coming at the top of the hour.
Yeah, there
Daily
you go.
Brexit.
That'll do.
One, two, da di da da. Oh, seems to be working. Hello. Oh, look at that. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. We'll be right with you. Hold on. Daily Brexit, live at 5, Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Daily Brexit, coming up shortly.
Live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m.
Live
We've
at
got that.
5, Tuesdays and Thursdays. Daily Brexit. Yes.
Okay, for crying out loud, let's just do the damn thing. Tell you what. Hey, folks. Good afternoon, good people. And welcome to the Daily Brexit. Holding democracy to account, fighting for self-determination and exposing plutocracy. I'm Olly Connelly. Thanks for turning up. And now, Friday the 13th. Because I didn't know what the bloody hell to talk about, really. Any excuse, eh? Any excuse for a rant. And yeah, we've already got Lopi and Glenn on Discord. If you want to call in, please, gov.ly/rant. Yeah, because that's what we do. We'll see you in the comments too. If you want to bung us a beer, big cheers. It's Friday night, yeah? PayPal.me/Brexit. God bless you. If you're worried about the end of the month, don't worry about it, yeah? If you got a few quid, chuck us loads. You can share the show, like the post, like the page itself, all that. I don't know what you do on YouTube. You do something similar. Let folks know that we're talking, we're watching, we're thinking, we are active. Right. Yeah. Good. So it's interesting, yeah. Popular opinion is divided between YouTube and Facebook. We've got about the same amount on each, about 15 odd on each. That's interesting, yeah. That's interesting. Okay. There's actually, I think there's about 18 people on YouTube and 14 on Facebook. So hello, everybody. And Glenn, good evening to you, sir.
Good evening, Ollie. How are you, my friends?
I'm very well, thank you, mate.
What a lovely time to be alive, eh, mate?
Yeah, it is. It's nearly beer o'clock, mate. In fact, I might go off and grab a beer halfway through the show, I think, tonight, just because it is Friday, isn't it? After all, it's been a dressed down week all week for me. How did the show go last night? I didn't check it out in the end, but you were on, yeah?
Yeah, it was really well, actually. Downline is, he's very knowledgeable into what we were talking about. We actually discussed quite a few things last night.
Downliner, that's a guy. He was in the comments last few days on YouTube. Yeah. Yes. He makes some great comments. So he joined you on the show last night. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he did. Yeah, a great bloke. Wealth of knowledge as well. He's very computer literate as well. He's I think he does it for his job. He uses a computer for his job. He works from home. Right. And he literally just spends the time researching on the net and everything. And yeah, he's unearthed a lot of stuff that we've unearthed between us.
Excellent.
We was discussing a few little things last night as well, bit off subject. Well, on subject, but off subject.
Yeah.
In regards to, like, do you know they say we've got a free trade agreement?
Well, yeah, like that's right.
In Europe,
yeah, sort of.
Right.
Yeah.
So
it's not as simple as that. It's not strictly speaking just that, though, is it? I mean, there's anyway.
Well, no, because we pay. So what I thought is the consumers subsidise the trade cost via VAT. Now I know businesses do pay VAT, but they can claim it all back. Okay, but we can't. As consumers, we can't claim our VAT back. So we pay for that trade through every single product that we buy through VAT, because VAT is a European tax. It came in at 72 or 73, and it's just gone up ever since then. And my thinking is the consumers are subsidising the trade, the corporations' trade.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Yeah. The other thing about the free trade agreement, I mean, it's all nonsense. It's not true at all, because How can it be a free trade agreement when you're not allowed to make agreements with other countries outside of the EU? Yeah, there's nothing free about that, is there? There's nothing free about that at all. That's the whole strong arm problem with it. But what you're saying is that the VAT system is essentially okay. Explain that again, Glenn. Go on.
Okay, so we pay VAT.
It's very early in the show
everything.
to be getting so deep, mate. But carry on.
Yeah, we pay VAT on everything that we buy, no matter what it is.
Right.
And
the there are maybe one or two exemptions, but yes, different rates as well. Carry on.
So when a business goes and buys products from another country within Europe, they don't have to pay a tax or any percentage tariff to get that goods into the country.
Right.
And my thinking is the reason they've done that is because they're charging VAT, so they can subsidise what the agreement would have been. So on a world trade agreement, say with like America to import cars, put an extra 2.5% on the import of cars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we subsidise that by paying 20% VAT or the variation of up to 20% VAT in products
on the
product. Yeah.
On the tariff is the point that you're taking issue with.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. So the tariff, all they've done is they've disguised the tariff as VAT and said, oh, look, we've got a free trade agreement, but you have to pay VAT as a consumer, but the businesses don't. So the businesses get away with paying what they should be paying in trade agreements and pass the buck on to the consumer.
It obviously depends from territory to territory, depending on what they've got, doesn't it? What's the deal with the EU? We're not paying any tariffs, but we are covered up in red tape.
Yeah, exactly. So they've disguised a trade agreement in many sections, and now it's like everyone thinks that we've got free trade, we'd do much better. Well, I think we'd do better by putting tariffs on products and not paying VAT. I think as a country, that'd be better. Let the businesses pay for what they should be paying for, and we pay for the product.
The bottom
Does that
line,
make sense?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, personally, I think the EU is just a protectionist trade racket. And for example, one of the problems we've got with migration is that we are helping to impoverish African farmers, for example. So we're creating a problem, and then we've got the UN actually putting out tweets saying that we should be welcoming migrants, that is the future, that is just the way it is, as opposed to tackling the root causes of what's breaking up people, their cultures, their families, and all the rest of it, and affecting other cultures into the bargain. It is a protectionist racket, is the bottom line. Yeah, I mean, we should, in a utopian world, have no tariffs. We should allow countries to be able to trade with each other without the red tape. But on the other hand, I know that there are a lot of people that do argue very strongly that there do need to be some kind of tariff system. I have to say, I'm not an economist. I don't really understand it. But it does seem to me that the EU is a club, that if you're within that club, then you're restricted from trading without. But on the other hand, if you're without, then you have to pay a tariff to trade with.
Ollie,
is there anything really healthy about that? Is there anything really healthy about that? Lopi, go on.
You're weird, but from my perspective, you're no longer live on Facebook.
Oh, really? Oh dear. No, I'm not, am I? Oh, blimey. I'll tell you, that happened last night as well. Okay, all right. Let me just do something about that very quickly. I apologize. What a pain.
No.
So simulcasting, been simulcasting all this week, but not at the moment, apparently. Because for some reason the stream with Facebook fell out of bed. Thanks for letting me know, Lopi. Okay, so that's take 2 again. And I just need a stream key. Bear with me, folks. Bear with me. Facebook's opening the page. Give me a stream key. And I can put that in the settings. So yeah, it is better, is it not, to be for folks to be on YouTube, because the stream doesn't seem to fall out of bed on YouTube. It does on Facebook. I don't know why. I don't know whether they're playing with this. They have been playing with this show, and I think all alternative truth media, basically, they have been playing with. I think that's pretty clear. That's why I've moved away. It's they're talking about the Facebook complying with I don't know, we're working with Cambridge Analytica and all that stuff. I'm far more concerned about how they're censoring free speech and how they're herding people into groups so that they're just in echo chambers, basically. That to me is a lot more worrying, because we can't have a decent debate. Anyway, I've started streaming again on Facebook, and now I will give it a bloody title.
I just use my Facebook to post. I use it against Facebook, so I don't put any like personal information or anything like that. I just put on like articles, factual information, and stuff like that. So they can't. What they're going to draw from me? They're going to give me what I'm looking for, and that's the truth. But Facebook don't really do that. That's
Anyway.
I've advised loads of people not to put any personal information on there anymore, and just use it as like a message board sort of thing, where you're just going to post just information about what's going on.
Yes. Yes.
And if you're going to post if you want to talk anything sort of personal or meeting up or anything like that, I know they've got back doors to everything, but at least make it harder for them and use a text message. Don't even use Facebook Messenger, because they scan all your Facebook messages, your private messages, and go through all of that and use all of that information as well. So it's kind of like, and people continuously send in things that they can post on Facebook on their wall. They send it through Messenger. I'm like, why? Kind of seems pointless, because there's a limited amount of people that are seeing it.
Okay, David Allison said she's missing the 6 o'clock fake news. And yeah, no, that's right. We need to go through it. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you. And thank you so much for, it's really, really good with Glenn and Dave Wolf, for example, and folks like Alexander Sangmore and others doing similar stuff to this. And of course, what they're doing at Motivate with Davey Russell and co. It's really, really good to be able to compare notes with folks and to try and get this right. I'm looking forward to Infinity SN coming on with their. They are there now. I joined up with them the other day, the social network, and again, a bit like MeWe, they plan to be kind of not corporate, but they haven't got their streaming facility ready yet. But they are planning to do a streaming facility very similar to Facebook Live. And so, Glenn, I'm looking forward to using Infinity or to checking it out. Anyway.
I was going to say, I'm going to give it a check out, see what it's like in that. I'm going to look a bit more into who they are, who the CEOs are, and get some background information on them just in case. Only because
They look pretty good. Okay, take a few comments and then we'll look at some news. Is Infinity open source? Stav, I'm not sure. I think it's a group of a few private developers, though. I think it's proprietorial, but I think it's very small. And so, yeah, it could be bought. Who knows? But as I understand it from other people who've made comments on the show, Infinity, the guy behind it is very much of a kind of an open source kind of a mentality. This is Steve of Expert in Legal Matters. If you wish to know what my website is about, let me know. Steve McRae, thank you very much for the spam, sir. Axiom Curb Community. Yeah, sacrifice Facebook. Better things will come along quicker. More people walk away from fascist bot. Yeah, we have to, really. John Middleton, I agree with Glenn, though. I think that we do need to use it as best we can, but accept the fact that we are being pawned, basically. Everything that bringing to the UK should be paid with UCC as merchants, etc. The cover of the trustees, Judiciary's government, same as Treasury for the subjects to pay dead debt for us, says John Middleton. I wouldn't bother with face arse, Ollie, says Stab. Yeah, about 2 men in froze off, William Davies. Got jocked off through face ache, says William Davies. Good to see you on YouTube. VAT is a criminal act on the non-corporate natural man or woman, but not on their straw man, says Dav Woodcutter. Ellen Young, no, I've come over to YouTube. John Middleton, this whole system is set up and obligations adopted parents get more money than the natural parents, all obligations. The downliner, and as we know, usury is the act of lending and charging interest and looked down upon with the story of the money lenders in the temple. Thank you, downliner. And Glenn was complimenting you at the top of the show, mate. If you want to pop in on Discord, then do, and we'll have a chat. We got Predator Jeff here too. And actually what I should do is I'll put that on, and there we go. So we got Discord on the screen now. We got the comments on the screen. Let's have a look and see what's going on in the world of fake stream today. Okay, great. So they're talking about Comey, aren't they? James Comey. Apparently his book's out or whatever. Your kakistocracy is collapsing, he has warned Trump. That's what Drudge is talking about, of course. And he's being called a slime ball by the POTUS. Excuse me. Yeah, spy cameras know what we're thinking, we're feeling. There was a story last week or so saying that now there is a kind of a brain scan that they can use, and they can actually read your thoughts. And whilst you're thinking, it can literally transcribe your thoughts into prose.
Just to touch on that,
go on.
Facebook have it's called Building 8, and within that building, they have the capabilities of augmented reality, brain scanning, little flying objects, drones, and there's something else that's involved. It's all to do with like AI and stuff like that.
How do you know this?
And research, bit of the Q community. We've unearthed quite a lot of information. I've got to dig it out. There's an article with the EU discussing about AI and how they're going to implement it to basically take over.
You know, this whole AI thing is quite frightening. I was actually thinking about artificial intelligence the other day, though, and it occurred to me that actually intelligence within robots, potentially, it could be pretty pure because they wouldn't be perhaps conditioned. It's actually us humans that are the artificial intelligence most of the time, no? Really? I mean, don't you think? That's why half the world, basically puts more trust in imaginary friends than they do in hard, cold logic, because what they've been told to believe from kids. And I'm not saying that they're necessarily wrong with their faith, by the way. I always say this when we touch on religion. But the fact is that people are indoctrinated. What is not artificial about that?
Mm-hmm. You're right. And they've got like microchips or chips that they're designed to put inside your head to gather your thoughts and your consciousness so you can put it into a robot and live on forever. Well, hang on. How's a robot going to have a soul for a chip? It doesn't make sense. People would believe it. People would believe it and go, oh yeah, I'll do that.
So they can download all of their memories and stuff onto a chip or whatever, and then that can be put into a robot, and they think that they've got some kind of a legacy, or they actually think that they
will live on forever as a robot, but as themselves as they are now. It's weird. I don't like, even on a logical sense, I'm like, how would you transfer your brain into a microchip over? Well, there'd be no real emotions, empathy, or anything like that. Your thoughts would be made for you.
It's incredible.
It's a really, it's a strange concept, isn't it?
It is. It's very odd. It's very odd where we're going. And the other thing that, people are beginning to talk about it a bit more now, but my God, it's been like getting blood out of a stone, is this debate on automation. And the debate still isn't fired up, of course. we, at the same time as having this massive migration crisis, are on the brink of mass unemployment through automation. Within just a few years, we're going to see mass unemployment. We're not having that debate, are we? We're not having that debate.
Driverless vehicles, that gets me. We're just going to have like big companies are just going to end up buying fleets of self-driving vehicles.
That's
where
right.
they only have to punch in a destination.
They reckon that's going to be one of the first industries to be affected. No, Glenn, is haulage.
Yeah, I heard that as well. It was going to be one of the first.
Which
and
makes
I was
sense,
just like,
because they basically want all of our cars to be self-driving, and so they will be as well. That means no more taxi or anything either.
Well, you'd have like a self-driving Uber.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, all owned by people
It'd
like
be-
Branson.
It's
Virgin.
we can't
cabs.
allow it
Like
to
something out
happen.
of
That's why we
Back to
need
the
an
Future.
internet bill of rights.
Internet Bill of Rights. That's another. Okay, all right. That's another story again. Right. So Times going on about Russia. Guess what? Yeah. Russia says UK staged and directed horrific Syria chemical attack. Russia says UK staged and directed horrific Syria chemical attack. Who knows? Cliff Richard thought he was going to have stroke over BBC coverage, according to The Independent. Apparently, he was watching the coverage at the same time that everybody else was online. Yeah, we touched on this last night. He was in the dock today. Was old Cliff. At the same time, there was a story today, Glenn, about what's his name? That's Cyril Smith, about Rochdale, about the fact that they now are saying that, yeah, no, fair enough, people didn't know about Cyril Smith and Rochdale at that school where he was abusing little boys. And it just beggars belief. And this Cliff Richard thing, now he was actually named in the Elm Guest House ledger of guests by its proprietor, what's her name, who died mysteriously a little bit later, having produced this list, which may be a fake, and there may be nothing to it. But that list also contained the names of people like Leon Britton, who was just, to join a few dots here, was Nick Clegg's protege politically. Basically took him under his arm and brought him into politics for uni, Oxford, whatever. And Nick Clegg, when Cyril Smith died, to round the corner to the circle, he praised the guy and said what an inspirational character he was and all that. It was already known what Cyril Smith was, and it just makes you wonder, doesn't it? And I just think that this whole Cliff Richard thing, whether he's innocent or not, is nonetheless being used as a big distraction against the fact that the powers that be have been using paedophilia as a tool to oil the rails of democracy, quite literally, according to...
In Tim Fortescue's words, brownie points.
That's right. I'm going to play that clip now. I've played it before. A lot of people are sick to the back teeth of it.
No, it needs to be played as many times as possible.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. This is Ted Heath's whip, Tim Fortescue, one of Kenneth Clarke's colleagues, by the way, father of the house now, talking about how paedophilia was used as a way to ramrod government policy at the time that the UK was taken into the EEC.
Anyone with any sense who was in trouble would come to the whips and tell them the truth and say, no, I'm in a jam, can you help? It might be debt, it might be scandal involving small boys, or any kind of scandal which a member seemed likely to be mixed up in. They'd come and ask if we could help. And if we could, we did. And we would do everything we can, because we would store up brownie points. That sounds a pretty nasty reason, but it's one of the reasons. Is if we can get a chap out of trouble, then he'll do as we ask forevermore.
It just beggars belief, doesn't it? It really
Disgraceful. Utterly disgraceful.
This is one of the
How-
most senior figures in one of the senior figures, one of the whips for the Heath government that took us into the EC, basically saying that we would cover up them raping little boys if they would vote in line with the government. We've got Carl Stephen here. God bless you, sir. Carl.
Hello, Ollie. How are you doing, friend? You okay?
Very well, mate. How are you? Friday the 13th.
On the VAT subject, this is one of the stories what disappeared from our news feeds and papers and TV.
Mm-hmm.
It was before Britex and the European Court of Injustice, shall we call it, was taking Britain to court for not paying or not charging VAT, which is a required statute for being in the EU, on medical things, that's dentistry as well as hospital items, not paying VAT on children's clothing and not paying VAT on women's sanitary wear, toiletries. And we were to be taken to court, but since Britex never had seen anything about it, and it was quite big news in its day. So what's happened with that court case? I was just wondering.
I don't know.
It's
There's a
not
lot of
bad.
interest about what Glenn was saying in the comments, though. Go on, Glenn. Sorry.
I was going to say that, like anything, they brought out another story to cover it up, so no one else would discuss it, and then we couldn't have an uproar and say, "Yo, what's going on here?" Like seriously. But we need to. You're right there, Carl. It's time we started looking into things like that and started bringing it up, because it's those sorts of things that can make a massive difference in the movement. In my mind, the smaller the detail, the greater the impact.
I'm just copying a tab here. We've also got Predator Jeff in here. Hey, Predator.
Hey, Ollie, how's it going, mate?
No, not bad, man. How are you?
Our local anarchist.
Yeah,
Good day.
Yeah, I am a bit of an anarchist.
Being
I
attacked
am.
here. We've also got.
Go
Go on. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I am a bit of a political atheist. I think most of us, even people that still, play the voting game, I think they're all, basically at heart anarchists. Because,
I'm having a laugh, mate.
No. I think it's a good point, because what do most people vote for? They don't vote to put somebody in; they vote to get some bugger out.
You're right there, isn't it?
You know what I
That's
mean?
actually true. And then you've got the lesser of two evils to pick.
Chris Ford says, my friends are on here, on Facebook, not on YouTube. Look, Chris, that's not the attitude. That's not the attitude. Thomas White, I think the tax on women's products was sloshed after a load of women all over the country was up in arms. Yeah, that's right. You remember that? That's right. That was the tax.
I do remember them kicking off, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see what else is going on then. Let's see what else is going on in the world of fake stream. And Britain to bask in Mediterranean temperatures next week. So good on that. Trump labels Comey, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's just, it's all distraction, isn't it? I've got to say that this president, it must be very, very hard to get stuck in to the presidency. Just to give him the benefit of the doubt that actually maybe he is a white hat. My God, he's getting a hard time, He's getting it every which way.
Could you imagine if they gave him sorry.
No, it just must make it very hard to concentrate. Assuming that maybe he is a white hat. No? Rocky?
Well, yeah, definitely. Could you imagine if they gave him just a week or a month, what he could accomplish? What he's accomplished so far in the last, 15, 16 months or whatever it is now. He's accomplished a lot, more than what any other president has, in all honesty. Yet he's still dealing with the news, the investigation, and other people within the Senate and Congress and that trying to push him out.
Yeah,
and
Glenn, it all.
trying to, and I feel sorry for him in some sort of way, but I'm glad that so many people do have his back around the world. And I urge people, if you don't like Trump, to go and actually just look at what he's done on paper. Don't look at what he looks like in face. You might not like the person, but like his actions.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference.
I'll
think.
tell you one thing that he's done, in my opinion, which is more important than anything else, something that this president has achieved, is a growing awareness of just how malfeasant is the mainstream media in reporting supposed news. I think that he shone a light on that, and in a way that nobody else has, which I think is fantastic. I guess people like Julian Assange have helped to do that quite handsomely, but of course, he hasn't had the same platform. He's certainly done that. Lopi, what were you going to say?
Lopi can't hear Glenn, and I had a problem. I had to go out of Discord, Lopi, and back in again so I could hear Glenn, but he's still broadcasting. It's fine on YouTube because I went to listen to Glenn there while I tried to get back in through the green room, but I went back in and it's working again, Lopi, so maybe you should try that.
All right. And I wanted to let Ollie know that on YouTube, your I think it's YouTube, either YouTube or Facebook, I can't remember. You're awful quiet.
You need to stop smoking so much,
You're
Lopi.
quiet.
What? I'm very quiet on YouTube, or we all are.
This
Lopi.
is normal, but you're quiet.
Okay.
Go back in the green room and bring me back in because you've got really crap snacks in there today.
Crap snacks in the green room. That's a bit loud now, surely. Hold on. I'll try to that. See how that goes. Okay. All right. Yes.
I
Right.
tried to get back through the green room, but I went back in and it's working again, Lopi, so maybe you should try that.
Right. Okay. Yes. The Express, Russia. World War III threat. Putin warned Russia no match for amassed NATO forces. Sounds though the rhetoric's been pulled back a bit. Thank goodness on that. End of EU. Macroni. Failures could bring bloc crashing down under wave of Euroscepticism. Well, all sorts of things could, huh? Revealed why Brexit is the real reason UK will join US and France into the war in Syria. Okay, let's have a look at this story because there's one or two interesting theories about this, I know. I imagine there'll be a few comments about this too. Revealed.
Justin, how much do you think this is linked to the attack in Salisbury?
They always pop up, don't they, them things? They annoy me as well.
They do. They annoy me, I'll tell you. Anyway, yes. Revealed why Brexit is the real reason UK will join US and France into the war in Syria. According to the Express, Brexit is the reason the UK will support France and the US with military intervention in Syria after Assad's alleged chemical weapon attack. An expert has claimed the UK is considering military intervention in Syria, and cabinet ministers have agreed on the need to take action. I don't know if you saw Johnson, not Boris, his brother, who looks just like him, and his sister, and his father, on Question Time last night, talking about this. Quite interesting debate going on there, actually, on Question Time. To deter the further use of chemical weapons, as the government line, Downing Street has said, President Donald Trump has issued fiery rate. Yeah, we know all this. So what's the bloody reason then? I think this probably has more to do with Brexit, in the sense that the UK has left itself in a position where it is really desperately in need of support from the United States, as well as other countries around the world. Well, that sounds like a lot of crap. The UK wants to be seen as a global player to offset some of the influence it's losing within Europe. No, I think that the UK and the US just either want to trade together or they don't. Do you think that this could be used as a factor to strong arm the UK?
I think with war is usually a multitude of reasons. One reason, Ollie, I think, is that they'll want to put Mr. Rothschild's or whatever it is will want to put one of his privately owned central banks in Syria.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, they're not agreeing with Assad, are they? They don't like
regime change, so they can put in a puppet dictator like they usually do, and so on and so forth. Plus oil. It's the word God, isn't it? Springs to mind. Gold,
and not only that, that it's the deep state that have been the back people for ISIS, and
that's right.
They want ISIS
I still can't hear
to
Glenn.
continue on.
Hold on a sec, Lopi. Just a sec, my dear. Just one sec. Finish that off, Glenn. But we've got a problem with Lopi hearing you. We've got to work that out. Carry on.
And Predator said, like putting oil in there. Israel, Rothschilds, are legally drilling oil in that region, and they just they literally, for some reason, they want to fight Russia, which will only invite China. Not that China will be needed, because Russia could destroy us on our own. And I really don't think that America is actually going to do anything with Syria. He wanted to pull out over 2 weeks ago. And then a week later, what happens? Supposed chemical attack. It's just inviting ISIS and the deep state out into the open in all what they're doing. And
you've got massive oil reserves, haven't you, in the Golan Heights, which is, right next to Israel. You've got 2/3 of it, I believe, is in Israel, and 1/3 of the Golan Heights is in Syria.
Syria.
I think Israel will want to expand its influence into Syria, if you like, and grab
it
that.
It does make you wonder, doesn't it? Thomas White.
And they can see what Assad's doing as well. Assad's doing well, although he's not great. He's not the greatest guy, but he's doing well for that country. And the people are happy. I'd leave them be. Let them crack on with it.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. Thomas White says the oil and minerals they want, and they want ISIS to win. And he also made a very good point that to join PESCO, that's the real reason they want a war. I think that Thomas is pretty much spot on in both his observations there. Gas on Golan Heights, says Chris. I thought that it was did anybody watch that last night on Question Time? Did you see the debate? There were one or two people in the audience. There were one or two people on the panel as well that said, look, this is a hung parliament, for crying out loud. It's not a government with any with the kind of authority that should necessarily be taking us into what you could argue is another illegal war. If you look at the history of it, as Glenn says, look at the characters that have been involved in funding and arming ISIS, our allies, for crying out loud. And now, a couple of months ago, I was under the impression it was all over. Wasn't it supposed to be all over?
Syria was officially liberated. There was no problems
in Iraq.
Syria.
And Iraq.
And Iraq. Yes, yep, you're right.
And now suddenly, I agree with you. Very strange, this chemical attack. I don't know what the truth is, but I think that for the government to be trusted with this, the kind of government that gets pedos to vote with them, have they changed? Do you think they've changed? I don't know, because we haven't had an inquiry over it, have we? Yeah.
They've got worse.
Ollie, I've seen a fascinating...
We can't trust them. That's what they were saying on Question Time last night. Most people agreed with that, I think. But they will railroad us again, won't they?
Do you know what I think we need?
We're in danger of that.
A dictatorship. Just not like a horrible person, but like a good person. So Jacob Rees-Mogg, but a lot tougher, as a dictator, just to drain the swamp, get everything done properly, get all the illegal aliens out, all of the terrorists, all of those, sort out the healthcare, literally say, this is what's happening, this. If you don't like it, guess what? You're in prison. I don't care, because this swamp needs draining. And I think after like 2 years, get our sovereign money, build our army, what most dictators do, and then we slowly feed in a democracy again, as like a reset. I think that is one of the only ways, or the only way we're going to get out of all of this.
John
is
Alfred,
just to say,
Thomas Bejan says, another Oliver Cromwell. I mean, a benevolent dictator is a risky thing to find.
I'll do it.
You
can hold me accountable as well, as long as the military had my back.
Well, that's not a dictator. That's not a dictator. That wouldn't.
No,
be
like
you like to know
have my back as in protect me.
Ollie?
Go on, Cole. What do we do?
Would you like to know my take?
Yes,
with it, I think personally with Assad, it's the West call it, are obviously wanting to take control of the country. Why do they want to take control of the country? Well, it's top half the country is his, but it's not run by him. It's been thrown with all the problems they've had there, purposely, I think, to disrupt it, to keep the pipelines going, which they have there. But I actually think it's Israel. I think they want to take over Assad's country to make it a bigger Israel. And you've got
Greater
the power bank.
Israel, it's called, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the top end is, but it's not their country, is it? They're actually, everybody there is actually trespassing on his.
Yeah.
And don't forget, I think
the overall outlook on this is when you remember Cuba and Spain got down to the last 10% of finishing it off, the Americans offered Cuba help to get rid of the Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
We went in there, and then was happening, but the Americans then went, well, hang on a minute, we're going to run it for you. And then they were fighting the Americans. I think they've used the same thing. I think they've used Putin and to get rid of the problems they want and work it down, and then they'll just try and step in at the last 10% and take what they want. They want it as a banking system which has oil.
Not only that, don't forget, Carl, they want to the Zionists, the 1% or whatever you want to call them, they just want them there. They don't want no Muslims. They don't want no Christians. They think that they have the rightful ownership of the land. Like, and I don't mean just the Arabian Peninsula. I mean the whole earth. They think they have the rights to it. That's why they use it. That's why they're using Islam to destroy the West, because then they're going to go in and destroy them. Just creates mass destruction. And who's going to be left? The Jews.
It's an American and English decision to create Israel. I've never understood how on earth England and Israel and France, I think it was, wasn't it?
Because Rothschilds
all we agreed a piece of land to make it a Jewish state. They've only had one Jewish state. It was only for a very short period of time. How on earth can you do that?
Because he owns the two entities of America and UK, and he made him sign a declaration to sign it over to the Rothschilds, but not to the Balfour Declaration, not to the Rothschilds that was in charge, but to Rothschilds that was on the right wing, who was on the banking system. So it wasn't even the correct Rothschilds that even got the Balfour Declaration.
Basically, England's agreement to get the to pay Palestine to Israel to basically get the USA in return for getting USA into the war, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah, it was something along those lines. Yeah, I think you're right.
I believe they also looked at Cyprus to make it a Jewish state, and that was also when they were wondering where they should do this before the Second World War. I believe that they also looked at that. There was more than just two places, but I was quite surprised. Again, it's a Greek island, and how can you take a piece of land off somebody's country and say, "Oh, there you go, have this"? It baffles me.
Well, I seen an interesting little statistic the other day. This is going to shock you, probably. It shocked me.
Go on, brother.
I watched one of Stefan Molyneux's videos, and he said in it that in America's 245 years history, because it's a relatively young country, isn't it? Yeah, effectively. So in 245 years, 223 of them, they've been at war. That's 93% of the blooming time. 93%.
Yeah.
That is absolutely...
And since the Second World War, I think there's been about, 2 or 3 years without a war?
Yeah, that's about the best they've done. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they haven't.
Did they even manage that? Because there wasn't no real peacetime in those 2 to 3 years, though, because they were still kind of involved, but not fully.
That's right.
So they haven't really. Like covert. So
take the top off here in a second, if I can get me a second, all right, please.
What's that, Lopey?
Lordy, you gentlemen, I swear to God, you guys could yammer for England.
Well, we are. That's exactly
the
what
idea.
God bless you, Lopey. Go on, what would you like to say?
You guys were talking. This is how long I've been trying to get to be able to talk.
Can you hear Glenn now?
So I can.
Good.
And when you were talking about Facebook having issues and all that,
yeah.
I was given a message to give to you lot and everybody in the world. Hello, Stav. I see you in the comments. To go on to dysporiafoundation.org.
Right.
And it's not controlled. It's run by the people. It's like the way I can understand it is kind of like cryptocurrency or blockchain that is social network, social like Facebook.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Welcome to Diaspora, the online social world where you are in control. Diaspora is based on 3 key philosophies: decentralization, freedom, and privacy. Which sounds pretty good, huh?
In here, I messaged you the link, and I put it on Facebook in the and in the YouTube chat for people if they are interested in getting away from Facebook.
Yeah.
All right. I'll put my top back on, and you guys can carry on.
Thanks, Lopey.
Thank you,
nice.
Lopey. Much love.
Looks nice and clean, but yeah, I mean the thing that I'm looking for is a network where I can stream and not be kind of at the beck and call of these corporate algorithms such as we find on YouTube as well. But blimey, I tell you, yeah. Anyway, all in good time. Paid people to scrap old cars, says Chris Ford, talking about the problems going on. Yeah, there's a story that came out. Apparently, Land Rover sacking 1,000 people and blaming Brexit. There was also a report, I think the Institute of Directors put out a report this week, said, you know what, everything's looking really good with Brexit. So, yeah, but Yvonne Tierney, thank you. On the news, Jaguar Land Rover, 1,000 jobs to go because of Brexit. The Independent have got it, I think, as their third story or something. They're all salivating over it. We're lied to all the time, says Helen Lasky-Smith. Oh, bless her. And Thomas White, this is why they are letting them in to Europe and England. Saudi Arabia have paid our government and Brussels a lot of money to let the Muslims in at all costs. And this is why the police are turning a blind eye to their crimes. They have paid for Europe to be ruled by the Muslims. This is why the Muslims are so sure they're going to take over our country. Well, blimey, I don't know about that. But on the other hand, yeah, I mean, I do take note of Coudenhove Kalergi, and it does seem to me that that's got a lot to do there. And the Saudis are funding mosques, aren't they? So that folks can speak in a foreign tongue, saying God knows what, because I don't speak Arabic, you know. And it's just not on, is it? And it's not on. And now they want like things like the call to prayer, and I mean, call me old-fashioned, but I kind of like church bells, you know. I mean, it's just, you know, just I don't know. For crying out loud, you know, it's just we're turning into a caliphate if we're not careful. That's what it looks like. Seeing these pictures,
Isn't that the idea?
I hadn't realized, but seeing these pictures now of Speaker's Corner, it's become like some kind of temple to folks that, you know, I don't know, believe in 40 virgins or something. I don't really get it. You know, it's like, it doesn't look like what Speaker's Corner should look like. I would have thought. Caroline Stevens. We got a diesel car too. This is part of the problem, isn't it? All this diesel thing that's screwing up the industry, and God knows, but I don't think they've got through that, have they? I think that if there is Brexit, if there is Brexit, I think that it's pretty clear that the German car industry needs a trade agreement, because they're on the ropes as it is. Yeah. Anyway, why isn't anybody talking about diesel? Will be worthless? Will they? I don't know. I don't get the gist there. Anyway, right. So what else is going on? Something else I saw. I thought this would be quite good fun because bloody hell, I don't know why. You know, purgatory. Here we go. This is a bit of question time last night.
But why couldn't all these negotiations on fishery policy, on the environment, why couldn't they all have taken place before the Brexit vote? So when you went to the people of this country, you could have said A, B and C will happen, D, E and F will not happen. and that would have reduced the confusion to zero.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. That's a very interesting question, isn't it? Before we hear what they say on the panel, surely the answer is that they didn't want us to know the truth, because they didn't want people to know how much the fishing and coastal communities have suffered under the EU, and it would have opened up that debate precisely when they didn't want that debate. Is that not the truth of it?
Yeah. We know, well, I hate the fact that they took us in there on a bunch of lies in the first place. So what makes people think that they're going to tell them the bloody truth and be open and honest and transparent now?
It was such a shallow campaign on both sides. Neither side tackled the sovereignty issue and what happened to us. Let's just hear what they say on the panel about that.
Why on earth do you think that's simplistic?
Why? No, I'm being sarcastic.
Oh.
All right.
Jonathan Friedland.
I think it's a brilliant suggestion, and it's a particularly brilliant argument for there being another vote once there is a deal. Because once there is a deal, then we'll be...
So he's spinning it, saying tough that you didn't get the information. We want another second referendum.
A brilliant argument for there being another vote once there is a deal. Because once there is a deal, then we'll be able to... Essentially, what happened in June 2016
this guy writes for the Guardian,
we were like a family that decides we're going to move house. And then you look around and you look at all these other houses and you think, well, what about this one? We could rent this one. Well, before you decide that, you would have another decision to make. You wouldn't just say, well, look, we voted to move, so we've got to move into this house, whether we like it or not. You would take a new decision.
Right, let's apply that to a general election, yeah. So you've had an election, you don't like the result. Oh, no, we don't want to move into that house after all. We want to look again, you know? Or, oh, they've done a U-turn on that manifesto pledge. Therefore, now we want to look again because it's changed, which happens frequently with governments doing U-turns, but in the campaign itself, but generally also when they gain office as well, or don't in the case of Labour, who just U-turn on their policies anyway. Is there any argument at all for a second referendum?
No.
Think outside of the box. Think outside of the box, Glenn. Is there any argument at all for a second referendum?
Absolutely not, Ollie. I'll tell you what makes the argument very simple for Brexit and knowing exactly what it entails and what it doesn't entail is quite simple. They go back to completely reversing everything that the EU's done since when we went into the EU. So, you know, everything, just reverse the whole lot and roll the clocks back, I mean, 43 years or whatever it is. It's as simple as that. That means getting your own laws, throwing out all the EU directives. That means leaving the customs union, the single market, getting your fishing waters back, everything, the whole caboodle, the whole lot. Anything less is a betrayal. Simple, plain and simple.
David Cameron promised me that he was going to leave, and it was up to the people to decide, not the politicians. And he did it live on TV.
Who promised you? Who promised you? Sorry.
David Cameron promised me live on TV that this is your choice, this is the people's choice, you're sovereign, this is your choice, and not the politicians. And we'll implement what you want. And he didn't.
Okay.
So he's given it to somebody else. He's kicked it down the road, hasn't he?
Let me play devil's advocate then. This same bloke, Jonathan Friedland, on Question Time last night, said that it wasn't on the ballot paper about leaving the customs union.
Okay, so on that, leaving the EU, the European Union, which consists underneath the European Union, is the single market.
That's right. You don't really get to leave the EU without leaving that, do you? That's one point. But actually, more precisely, Glenn, it was stated in that pamphlet that everybody paid for, that was put out for the Remain campaign, that 9 million quid pamphlet or whatever it was, probably more than that in reality. That pamphlet did state that we would be leaving everything. Everything. It was explicit. And so Jonathan Friedland and others are lying about that point. I just wanted to make that point anyway.
Yeah.
At the same time as the live feed, At the same time, where David Cameron said that PESCO, it's not true. It's a myth. It's not going to ever happen. There won't be an EU army. At the same time, he was broadcasting that. Same time, he was broadcasting that. We paid £1.5 million, or just over, sailing one of our boats into the Mediterranean, going over to see Assad. At the same time as when they bombed the airports out, if you remember. And he actually was lying live on TV to the electorate. At the same time, saying this is your choice and you'll get what you want.
Who was that?
Not only
Who was that?
David Cameron. David
Cameron.
Not only that. At the same time, David Cameron said that the EU had already brought out a policy for PESCO, and people had already been given all of these documentations, and things had been implemented, like these battle groups had been implemented in 2007. So please tell me how there wasn't an EU army before, or at the time. Cameron goes, no, there'll never be an EU army. There's no this
PESCO. At the same time, was it what Netherlands, which joined their army up to the German army at the same time? What you're talking of? So they were amalgamating another country's army into the German army.
There was already partway through their implementation stages of the full EU army. We're just the last bit.
I understand that there are EU army personnel operating at army HQs all around the UK.
One in London.
There's
one in London.
In Northwoods. Northwoods in London is an important one for I think the Navy. And apparently there's about 300 EU staff based there now.
Yeah.
I heard that. I think it was on Radio 4 the other day. I think that was on the Today programme or something that came out on.
Plus members.
What are they doing there? What are they doing there? Why are we not having this debate? Sorry, go on.
Yes, you will like this. I watched a DV Democrats veterans speech. I can't remember the guy's name.
Yeah.
But he knew everything about the army.
That's
and
right.
He said the problem is with the EU.
He said this as well.
They split the army into 4 groups. So you're only seeing the bit where your money's being depleted in the army, and you're only understanding about PESCO. And there's other parts as well. But because people don't understand, it's not going into the media, and they're actually dissolving it. They split it in 4 factions, and they're dissolving all 4 of them at the same time. And we only see 2 of them. If I find it, I'll post it on mine. I'll post
what's the name of that
very,
guy
very,
from,
very
from
interesting.
Democrats and Veterans Party, who spoke very eloquently, ex-military guy, who was basically saying exactly this, who was talking all about this and explaining how we already have, we've so many EU personnel intertwined. It's just incredible, unbelievable. Breitbart is looking at Trump and Comey in their stateside edition, and I don't know what's going on with their UK edition. They're there we go. That's it there, right? And
I'll go and have a look for it, Ollie, and I'll post it in comments.
Russia,
yeah,
please do, please do, please do. I can't remember the name of that guy. It was just a few days ago, that wasn't it? It was a very, very good speech. So yeah. Anyway, blimey. I suppose we should take a few comments.
Ollie, I think we should stop calling the EU the European Union. We should call it the European Onion, because it's something that leaves a foul taste in your mouth and it makes you want to cry.
Oh, Jeff, that's brilliant, mate.
Caroline Stevens says he's not ex-military, this guy that was speaking for the DVP. Is he not? Okay. This is what I was saying last year, Thomas White. Caroline Stevens, Dave Ellis, my mate. Dave Ellis. Thank you, Caroline. Dave Ellis was the guy that was speaking for DVP. They were training on Salisbury Plain 2 years ago, says Chris Ford. The battle groups, I guess. Caroline Stevens, the Leave groups wouldn't produce leaflets to include EU military unification. I wonder why. We're heading for EU military unification, she says. Helen Lasky-Smith, we never joined the EU. We were in the common market, and that was all. The EU was slyly done, and it was planned. They acted then and are still acting. Thank you, Helen. God bless you. And over on, that's on Facebook, and over on YouTube, Stav Woodcutter says, yep, British pilots been operating off French ships for decades. Does anyone know about the manner holding trust? Asks Dean Knight. I don't, Dean. Thank you for your comments today. I've noticed a few. Just hadn't got around to reading them out. Chris Rumble, we must void ECA 72. To appeal is the only implementation. To appeal is only to implement changes. Void cancels the whole lot. Another debate we're not allowed to have, apparently, isn't it? In this media at all. Anthony McCann definitely repealed the 1972 European Communities Act. It was treason against the British people. It's blatant to see. Does anybody here disagree with that view?
No, get rid of it. I wouldn't even repeal it. I'll just burn it. Tell them to fuck off.
Down to me, I'll just take all the bloody treaties and rip them up in front of Merkel.
And that Barnier, Michel Barnier.
Indeed.
I heard an interesting take from somebody, some commentator or something, said that he was being as hardline as he is because he's hoping it's going to help his chances at the presidency when Juncker goes, and he is lined up pretty much, isn't he? I suppose.
Oh yeah, he's got his foot in the door already, and he's waiting to sit on the seat.
Barbara Scherer is here. Barbara, what would you like to say, my dear?
Nothing. I've only just come on, so I don't really know what the conversation is about.
No worries, not at all. John Middleton says, well, let the UK subjects take the Land Rover over then and produce our own negotiable instruments. Typical Guardianista, we know what's best for you, says Ben, referring to their take on anything, basically. The Guardian, the not so independent, what have you. The downliner, lots of laughs. What an ignorantly simple comparison to Brexit. I'm not sure what that is about, but yeah, there's a lot of it about. They didn't have a Brexit plan at all. Amanda Thompson, yeah, this is the bollocks story, isn't it? Is this the bollocks story? That was very funny, wasn't it? What's his name? Gardner, the Labour front bench bloke who basically summed up Labour's policy on Brexit negotiations as being bollocks. Their plan for whether or not the deal is a good plan, in his opinion, is bollocks. And he's on the front bench. What does that say? What does that say? What does that say, people? Does that tell us anything? Does it not tell us that there are a bunch of opportunistic tossers in Labour, yeah, who haven't got a clue, who want a government and are putting that wish for their party above that of wanting what the British people wanted, i.e. Brexit?
No, independence. We wanted independence.
They're all a bunch of complete sellouts. I mean, that's what the Barcelona Declaration was all about as well, isn't it? By getting all the Muslims into the country and that. They all sell out.
Yeah.
They all sell out. Every one of them. They just line their own pockets. They get offered a deal and they'll all sign up to it, no matter. As long as they get the money, they don't care.
If you want to call in, you can on gov.ly/rant. Probably going to be hanging out for about another half an hour today, and then back on Monday at 6. Glenn, are you doing a show with Dave tonight? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I've dropped a message, but not seen anything.
All right. Okay.
Sorry.
Well, yeah, cool. Okay. Yeah. So it's all Syria. Where's this going to go? Russia has irrefutable evidence. UK staged Syrian chemical attack. Yeah, that's on Zero Hedge. Trump reportedly weighing full pardon for Scooter Libby. He was under the he was Dick Cheney's patsy, wasn't he? Didn't he get a suspended jail term in exchange for not exposing the White House? No surrender. China escalates trade tensions by delaying deal reviews. Jimmy Carter just issued a chilling warning to Trump about Syria. I don't know. It's just...
Are you bored of it already?
I am so bored of it. I'm so bored of all of this because it's all so predictable and it's not what matters to people at all. Any of this, is it?
I was just about to say that exact same thing. You can see right through it all. And I'm just sitting there when people have been speaking about it at work, and I'm just like, I'm going to put my 2 pence in when they're finished. When they finish, I debunk it, all of it. And they sit there and they, have you got a theory on anything? I was like, it's not a theory. It's all based on facts. What do you want me to do? I was like, you're listening to people that will piss on your leg and tell you it's raining. I was like, says it all.
I'll tell you something that does matter. Something on InfoWars. New York super cop. London police are starved of resources. Crime exploding in Cannes, London. New York super cop has claimed that the major issue with rising crime in Britain is that the police are resource starved. Well, it's that, and it's also that they're common purpose, isn't it? Bill Bratton, who is hailed as one of the heroes who helped drive down New York's crime rate, told LBC that a major issue in your country, and particularly the Met, is that you're resource starved, to be quite frank with you. You cannot expect to keep reducing your police services and expect them to continue to do more with less. Guess what? We had a motto in the Los Angeles police when I was there. Too few for too long had been asked to do too much with too little. Yeah, I mean...
Theresa May's got conflicts of interest, though. Her husband, with all that private security firm wanting to police, it's going to be that bad. Surely she's going to drive it to go to chaos. Husband franchise working even better. It's unbelievable. It's conflict of interest, surely. Your Prime Minister's husband is running a security firm. They're running the prisoners about and everything else. They'll be the next police force, mate. Another private form.
Well, isn't it a conflict of interest when you've got Prince William, the owner or part owner of Serco?
Hold on a sec. Remind me what Serco is, Glenn.
They're this security firm, aren't they?
Right. Prince William's got shares in it.
Yeah, and Obama.
I read that he is the owner.
Yeah, well, he is. Yeah, he's the head of it.
What?
But
Who
there's
is?
other people. So Serco Group PLC is a provider of public services with headquarters based in Hook, Hampshire. Serco operates in 6 sectors of public service provisions, being health, transport, justice, immigration, defence, and citizen services. Oh dear, isn't that a conflict of interest?
And you're saying that who owns it? It's a PLC,
William.
but he's got a lot of shares or a majority stakeholding or what?
He is the head. He owns it. He is the head.
Good God. I didn't know that. That's peculiar, isn't it? What a strange conflict.
Yeah,
of
they're
interest.
calling him an ex-Antichrist, aren't they? Like, yeah, so Serco do like the speed cameras and the vans and stuff like that.
So it's generally a very useful company.
Oh, yeah, to drain your pocket and kill you off. Perfect.
So the bigger security company in the UK, is it bigger? Is Theresa May's husband? What was it called? Something for something?
G4S.
G4S. Is that bigger or
global?
Is it as big as?
Well, they do event security rather than public services.
That's right. He was looking after the Tory conference when Theresa May got a P45.
I'm going to put a couple of links. I'm going to put a couple of links between G4S and certain things that have happened.
They also do prison stuff.
Boston,
G4S.
They do. Yeah. So they do prison staff. They also do the tracking for the ankle monitors. They were also found out a number of years ago. They were making up just making the random people up and saying they're on tag because they was getting paid money for them.
Really? Really?
Yeah. Yep.
And these people are under government contract despite that?
Yes.
Defrauding the British taxpayer?
Yes. Also...
Did anybody get sacked over that or anything even?
I think a few people might have stepped down and they had a fine. I know they had to tighten up their security on certain things, and new legislation and stuff was implemented or whatnot. But they were also the security for Boston bombing,
Right.
at the when the marathon was happening.
Yeah, the
London attacks.
cooking pots, the pressure cookers. Sorry, go on. Yeah. The what?
London attacks.
London attacks.
attack.
What did they have to do with what? Sorry, what was that? What London attacks? Which bit? What do they have to do with what?
Well, they do security, don't they, throughout London?
Just before you carry on, Anthony Stevens is lighting up when I'm talking, so he's rebounding. If you ask him to mute his mic and he won't rebound, he's rebounding off you both.
We've got Anthony Stevenson McCann popped in and Downliner as well.
And I just want to put they was also at Manchester Arena as well.
Well, they
do all major events across the whole
and the
world.
mic off. You're both breaking up when you're talking. You need to ask Anthony to turn his mic off.
Anthony Stevenson, what would you like to say, sir?
They're actually training police in custody as well how to act, and they're taking over everything. You know, we're selling it off. They're just not telling the people they're doing it.
You see that. Is that not something that's going on with London, with the the reduction in police, despite the manifesto, the election promises? I thought there were from Khan, weren't there? Which is completely U-turned on.
It's going on around
they
the
seem to be depleting the force, and you're saying that you think we're going to see it replaced?
Yeah, definitely privatised. It's a corporation, isn't it? It's out there earning money. I mean, I was watching something on the telly about these refuge officers going around giving people £80 fines on the spot for dropping fag butts. You know, it's all about earning money, and they're earning a lot of money from it. So it's worth for private firms to get in there. You know, it's already happening. I was speaking to a police officer, and he was saying that how they're not protected enough. You know, there's not enough stun guns, and they're reducing the firearms people. You know, even they're really concerned of what's going off.
This is actually fascism, isn't it? If we're seeing corporate interests replacing public service, if we're seeing people being fined for chucking a fag, on the street, which you shouldn't do, but hopefully receive some education about it rather than a fine, and hopefully it would just be in your psyche from what you learned as a youngster. When you see this cynical policy of private companies being able to fine individuals for tiny misdemeanors, when those people are supposed to be in a position where they are serving and protecting the people. Do
you know
when you see that breakdown and you see the change, you're seeing fascism, are you not? You are seeing fascism, where corporates are colluding with government for profit over the interests of the voter, of the electorate.
Ollie, what have we got left that's not privatised? What have we got left that's not privatised or in the process of being privatised? Roads? That's about it.
They are privatised because the DVLA are a private company, and they charge you road tax to drive on it, and you have to have a licence to drive on it.
Roads off, they'll all be tolled, probably.
Well, you've got the M6
Well,
toll.
hold on a sec, Glenn, because also you could argue, and it would be correct, I think, that all the police forces around the country are also private companies.
They are private, they are.
If you look at them, online, you'll find that they're limited companies or whatever. But is that not for technical reasons as opposed to for malfeasant reasons?
Yeah, all right, yeah.
I don't know. I'm asking the question, but they.
No, so I would imagine they would say that on the front face that it's for a certain reason, so we can implement more policies, so we can have more structure, But really, it's to earn money and destroy people, put them in fear. It's not a disgrace. They shouldn't be owned. The police force should not be owned.
No, I agree with you. I don't know the reason why British police forces are private like that, but I'm not convinced.
Because it's all money, Ollie. That's all it is. It's all money. They're generating money. End of.
But they have traditionally the average. This is a growing problem, yeah. But how long have police forces been limited companies? When did that start being the case? Was it always the case?
No.
I can't imagine the Bobby back on the beat back in the day, the 1900s. There would have been a lot of corruption back then, but I can't see him actually working to earn money for the police force.
Well, that's right. The ethos was different, and I'm not sure. This is my point: is I'm not sure whether whether it was the police forces were private or have been private or are private for maybe reasons of some kind of makes sense procedurally. I don't know, but nonetheless, we have had a police force, and we're brought up to understand that we had a police force that was there to serve and protect and not cynically fine you for everything. But obviously that has changed and changing more. You're saying, your point, Anthony, is that you think that we are actually going to see if you like, the traditional police deposed for some kind of hybrid with these private companies. And so it's just going to become more and more obvious and ultimately more bloody RoboCop the way we're going, I suppose.
I don't think it's going to come to that. I think it already has come to that. It's just that people don't know about it yet. They've just done it to such a level, that they've infected everything. So, and I think when the people do actually find out and do wake up, it's too late. That's their actual plan. I mean, you see it all the time.
We've got Downliner in here as well. Downliner, nice to meet you. I know you called in at the end of the show yesterday, but I couldn't hear you, mate.
Yeah, well, I should have fixed that by now.
Yeah, you're there. Downliner, what would you like to say?
Well, you're talking about the police force being privatised.
Yes.
Well, in the US, that prisons are allowed to sue companies. Country, the state they're in.
That's right. If they don't get enough intake, no.
So
if they don't get enough prisoners, they can sue the government.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so I think that's the aim. I think it's
incredible
to bring police force with weapons.
It's all cooperation.
And what do they do when they're in prison in the United States? They make Starbucks coffee cups and stuff like that.
This is the problem with
and they're in because they were smoking a joint under Bill Clinton's 3 strikes and you're out. You get caught with a bit of cannabis 3 times and you go for 20 years. You get a felony. And you're making Starbucks coffee cups. So you're basically assisting a fascist system. Which, yeah. Oh, Downliner, I'm sorry. Please carry on, mate. So what you said is so. How far are we down that line in the UK?
Well, they've already privatised certain jails, haven't they? It's been seen a lot. On the ones that they haven't privatised, they've cut staff to the point where the staff aren't safe anymore and they're just locking prisoners up.
Oh, you got also in England, we are the highest, if we can call ourselves a country now, being a part of the EU. We have the highest prison intake of prisoners per population from any country out of the EU. So
it's because we're locking people up for not paying. We're locking people up for not paying their TV license, council tax, smoking a bit of bloody weed, having a fight instead of really doing proper justice for the ones like paedophiles who get suspended sentences and it's beyond me. It really is.
Really, Glenn, the only ones that should be in jail are the ones that have caused harm, injury, or loss. Everyone else are just civil offenders. So I mean, I don't
give them a whack round the back of the head with a newspaper and say, "Be on your way." But yeah, you're right. It's only people who've caused harm, loss, or injury that should be in prison.
But it's profit in it, Glenn. This is the problem. When you privatise anything, it becomes profit driven. When it's profit driven, you've got to make profits for the shareholders. Then you get the quotas. We got to have X amount of prisoners. We've got to have X amount of children being taken off of families to go into social services and put up for forced adoption. You've got to have quotas for everything. This is how it works. So it's never, privatisation is never a good thing.
No, of course it's not.
Well said, Predator. Well said, mate.
When it comes
to certainly makes sense.
They have to be publicly owned.
Hate crime is the thing now.
Sorry, Downline?
I said it certainly makes sense why hate crime is the thing now that they concentrate on, because that would help with the quotas, wouldn't it?
They would. What you've got to think is in the private jails as well, they're going to have the same kind of arrangement with the government. If they don't get enough prisoners, they can't afford to run the prison. So they are just feeding the system, aren't they?
Yeah, they don't even tackle burglary these days. They just go straight for hate crime.
That's right.
And
apparently, America builds more prisons than universities and colleges.
I mean, you said
that really outweighs it. I think they build 10 prisons per college and universities
Unbelievable.
over the
There's
last
more prison
20, 30
population in
years.
the United States than in any other country in the world, per cap, as a proportion of the population, as I understand it, by a long
Has
chalk.
anyone ever seen the movie My Dinner with Andre?
No.
I mean, you say certain things. You say things shouldn't be owned, but some things should be publicly owned. If it's publicly owned, it's because we've built the blooming things in the first place. The people,
right.
yeah.
That's right.
So when they privatised it, what they've done is they've effectively stolen it off of us.
That's right.
Given it to a bunch of people
French,
with some money,
the water or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. They've bought it all off us. They've basically stolen it off of us, sold it off, and
then hope that we don't go to war with the French if they poison our water.
Exactly.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy.
Mass.
Unbelievable. Very, very odd.
Anyway,
very odd.
Anyway, you should watch that movie because it talks a lot about New Yorkers making their own prison and living in it.
What's it called again, Downliner?
It's My Dinner with Andre. It's a long film, but it's about two guys who go to a dinner. One of them's very educated, and the other one's just trying to get a story. And he says, "Do you know why most people don't leave New York? Because it's too much hassle. They're just building their own prison inside. They never leave because they don't want to leave, but they're actually." You ever seen that other film where they escape from New York? That was an interesting one. That's kind of based.
Yeah, that's with Kurt Russell, isn't it?
That's the one. Yeah, he's just building his own prison. That's exactly.
They turned New York into an entire prison, and then for the sequel, they decided to turn LA into a prison, which you could argue it is. But they did. Yeah, they did.
All prisons.
Like they said on the Matrix, isn't it? The whole thing is just a prison for your mind.
I was just about to say that same thing, Predator. Literally, I was just about to say, it's a prison within your own mind.
Exactly.
Controlled by a backless piece of paper.
Do you know what? I was laughing at a lot of people today speaking about money and paper. They were not moaning. They were going on about like betting and how they'd like to win all this money and live this lavish lifestyle and have all these things. And I just went, so you think that pleasure is going to actually fundamentally make you happy? I was like, you really need to find happiness before you can have pleasure.
Okay, let's take a few comments. Catherine Gladstone, probably see you all inside the way things are going. Catherine Gladstone. Michael Page, the EU, I bet, want this country to be a prison island. I'll tell you. Well, who knows, eh? Helen Lasky-Smith, I agree with the speaker about prisons. Catherine Gladstone, education is the most important thing in prison. From basic skills to higher qualifications, producing rubbishy coffee cups isn't teaching them anything and gives no hope to the inmates. It isn't just Starbucks. It's a whole bunch of these kind of corporate names and stuff that they do stuff for. I mean, it really is. Grab a few comments.
According to Stefan Molyneux, every country is a farm. Is a farm anyway. It's your own prison, and the politicians are the farmers, and we're the sheep.
Exactly. That's right. We're in a plantation.
Yeah, I agree.
We are at the moment. That's exactly what it is. If we don't get Brexit, we know it. They are going to do it here as well in the so-called FEMA camps that's all over this country, says William Davis. Well, FEMA camps are in the States, aren't they? Yeah, blimey, I tell you. Some of the footage of those things. Lopi, Ollie, get me out of the green room. I want to tell you something. Lopi, you're here.
Thank you, and I do like the sausage rolls. I want to remind everybody, first and foremost, the government doesn't give a shit about us. Okay? We need to stop thinking that the government cares about us and that they have our best interests. We have to look at the police as the quote unquote army of the government. They do their bidding. They don't do our bidding. They don't follow the law. They don't have any idea what a statute and a law is. They just follow rules, what they're told to do, and they do it. As far as the prisons go, that is the cash cow of the government. The cash cow meaning that the lawyers, the barristers, everybody's making money off of the people that are doing petty little things for the government. They're making money for the government and paying the government this and that, and lining everybody's pockets. So we gotta keep all this in mind, that when you go and talking about the police, you're talking about prisons, you're talking about this and that. They're all work together. They're nothing to do with us or what's right or what's wrong. They're all together.
The only
They don't
thing,
care.
Lopi, it's got to do with us. It's we're paying the taxes for the prisons and those services, so they milk our taxes out of it, isn't it, love?
You're quite right.
Coral, this is what I was about to say. Because if all these corporations are now self-funding,
Jeff, just one second. Jeff, Lopi was talking. I'll get told off by Lopi. Lopi was talking,
sorry, Lopi.
Yes, you're quite right. But the whole point of it is, we're not sought out as entities. We're sought out as dollar signs. We're the backing of everything.
Yeah.
We're not people. We're not people. Humans. We're not anything. We're less than animals in their eyes. We're just money.
We're less
than people.
So what happens to us once there is automation really kicking in? Like within 5 years, we're going to see massive change in the workforce. Are we not?
Ollie,
yeah, of course we are.
2 seconds.
What happens then? Because what's his name? Blimey, the Kissinger called us useless eaters, didn't he? I mean, then we really are, in the eyes of that mindset, useless eaters. Sorry, Glenn. What were you going to say?
In a way, we're worse off than slaves, because slaves were actually bought and paid for in the old days, and so they were looked after because they had a financial value. We've got less than a financial value because we're just economic slaves, and like every single one of us is a slave. So we're expendable assets. We're worse off than slaves.
People just don't believe it, though, do they? They don't believe it. People just don't believe it.
I don't know how people can't believe it. You know, the evidence is all there, and the fact that people still deny it, to me, I find it hilarious.
It's a lack of logic.
We are the commodity for the GDP, what they set.
But everyone can see what's right and what's wrong. And well, you'd think
Well,
anyway.
you say that, Anthony, but people do love their comfort zones. And also, another thing I will say, in defense of people generally, one sec downliner, is that people are tired, and they get up early, they're paying tax till about 2, 3 in the afternoon, effectively, and then they earn just a few quid for their family, get home finally, it might be dark by then, they'll be tired, they have to make some dinner, maybe help kids with the homework, maybe not, put the kids to bed, and guess what? Crash out in front of, ironically, Big Bloody Brother. That is life for a lot of people, Monday to Friday at least. Downliner, sorry, go on.
Exactly, Ollie. It's economic slavery. Like I was saying, if all these companies are now self-funding and they're private corporations, why the hell are we paying tax? I mean, virtually everything is now self-funding and privatized. So why the hell are we still paying tax? It should be virtually minimal. It should be next to nothing. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, all we're doing is paying for the roads, and even the roads aren't getting bloody done.
And no prizes for guessing why inflation's risen while wages stagnate, because that way you've got even less time to find out the reality.
That's right. And also inflation, true inflation is way, way higher than we ever see. Would you not say? I mean, try buying a house, no?
We're paying for their agenda and their security and their bunkers and everything like that. We're paying for everything, and we're the ones that are going to be left to deal with the fallout.
Those prices have gone up fivefold in 25 years.
The cost of food, particularly, the increase in the cost of food to get a load of food over
And
the
now the
course of the
packets have
last
got smaller.
so expensive. Sorry,
Inflation.
downliner.
Inflation is a code word for reduced buying power. It's got nothing to do with the population or the economy. It's to do with the fact that they don't want you to getting up for higher than they are. So they keep reducing or putting prices up so people have the same amount of money, but they buy less with it. So it's less buying power.
You're right there, the inflation is used against your GDP, and that way they can control you to make sure when you work, you can't afford to buy it. So the hour you spend in your hour of work, you can't afford to pay somebody else after you pay their taxes.
Somebody else just made a good point as well, that not only are they putting the prices up, they're putting the size of the food that you get down.
Yeah, that's right.
The Germans,
that's right.
The Germans experience
even
hyperinflation.
Sorry, 1 minute.
Sorry,
Downliner is
downliner.
just trying to
Downliner.
say something,
Sorry.
but he's very
Go on.
quiet. So
Sorry.
can you let him speak, please?
Yeah, I've got him
Sorry
on
about
boost
that.
here, but go on, downliner. I apologise.
Is that better?
Yes, it is. Yes, much better. Well done.
Yeah. I said the Germans experienced this in World War II with hyperinflation when they all kept the money under the bed, and when they took it out, inflation had gone so high that the money was hardly worth anything. They thought they were saving for the future, but there wasn't. The government just raised the inflation to make 1,000 Deutschmarks, whatever, less than the price of a loaf of bread. So it's not a good idea to keep hold of money. So savings accounts. Why, if you've got a savings account, you don't get the interest. You get about a penny a month. What you need to do is put it somewhere else.
And effectively is reducing in value, as you say.
Exactly. It's not going to go up in value, is it? I mean, have we ever seen anything go up in value apart from the commodities like gold, silver?
That's right.
Paper money it's decided by them. That's the control, and we need to
downlighter. If you actually buy gold, you can only actually buy gold for the weight of gold in Switzerland. I think it's China.
No, you can buy it from
otherwise, you buy
pawnbrokers.
pieces of paper, and every single pound of gold you're buying, there's 10 pieces of paper for that piece of gold. It's false economy. They're selling pieces of paper. So when I know people saying I'm buying gold and silver, I'm asking them
physical gold.
Where they buying the gold from, and they tell me it's a piece of paper. They're buying a document.
Yeah,
it's not
going to be there. They can't go to that bank to ask it.
What's
but
it
if
called?
You go to Switzerland, you can.
There's a name for that. I can't remember what it's called, as opposed to physical gold. Is
bond.
when you physically got it. Well, a bond, effectively, downliner, I guess. But
it's a bond. So you're buying a bond on it, and there's 10 people
which
buying
is a promise. A bond is a promise.
It's not there, is it? It's not there. They're selling paper on 10% of what they have as a value.
A promise is fine if it can be upheld.
90%.
But if everybody wanted to get their gold, then there's a problem. Then there's a run on gold, eh? But we've not experienced that. That is a crisis we haven't yet experienced.
Most people, silver is a bigger commodity, and when you think about the things where they're making the phones from, and what you need is lithium and everything else, the commodities are even more. It's future markets. They're gambling on future markets with it, and that's your future. And if it crashes, you're picking it up. So your government then says we're going to bail the banks out.
Yeah, which is essentially what happened with Greece.
We did experience that.
Sorry, downliner, go on.
Yeah, we did experience that with the CDOs in the housing market.
With the CDOs, what were they?
You know the 2008 crash?
Yes.
Lehman Brothers.
Collateralized debt obligations, Ollie.
Right.
They pull them in. They rein them in.
But what
which
they
is
did was
essentially
they
mortgages.
Yes.
They bundled bad mortgages and good mortgages together,
Yes.
and then got them rated by their own Moody's, AAA, and then got people to bet on whether they fail or whether they succeed. And
Moody's valued them at AAA, and and we have the cheek to listen to this bloody. Or sorry, they have the cheek to tell us, and we are told that Moody's is an authority on the we should be punished as a country according to Moody's or whatever. Just unbelievable.
And then,
unbelievable.
Then people would bet on them, and the bets would be like thousands of times more the value of the mortgage. So when it came to collect, that's when they collapsed.
And the problem was they were betting with depositor money, weren't they, at this stage? Because Glass-Steagall had been rescinded, no? There used to be a separation in the United States between deposit banking and investment banking. And Clinton got rid of that division, which meant that the Wall Street, kind of Wolf of Wall Street type character could gamble with your money from your, little savings type account. And
that was it. And then they gave companies credit that they didn't have. And when it all came back to when people won and lost, they called in the debt, as the banks do, and then the whole economy collapsed.
And that's why they're saying they're too big to fail, because they're saying, because otherwise, your money is affected. And yet, actually, we need lots of your money anyway to bail these folks out. In the case of stateside taxpayers, they were bailing out Deutsche Bank from the Fed.
Once Deutsche Bank collapses, that's all the central banks collapse.
Their exposure is trillions, isn't it? It's something like 2/3 of the GDP of the world or something ridiculous.
Wow,
their exposure
They
is...
declared bankrupt. When they declared bankrupt only 2 years ago.
It gets worse as well.
Were they? Were they declared bankrupt?
I'm sure they were bailed out. By the BIS. I can't remember.
I'm sure that they were bailed out. I know they were bailed out after 2008, but I'm not sure to what extent. And but I do know that their exposure is crazy, and that they've been quite quiet in the background, Deutsche Bank, for the last few years. Just it seems to me. Right, look, there's a couple of events going on this weekend that I wanted to cover with you guys before closing off tonight. And so, Glenn, you're going to be at Speaker's Corner, aren't you? Is that tomorrow or Sunday? Can you remind me?
Sunday. I'll be there about. I'll probably get there about 10:30. But I think the speaking's going to start about 12, something like that.
Are we going to do some kind of a live feed for that?
Yes, we can talk, and if I can live feed on Daily Brexit, like if you make me admin or something, and then I'll live feed through Daily Brexit as the Daily Brexit.
I'll do that, Glenn, and I'll let you know later tonight. That's brilliant. Thank you. I very much
Not
want
a
to do
problem.
that. And
Ollie,
yes,
say something about gold and silver. A lot of historically, what's happened in the past is when people have realised that the whole banking system is going to collapse and you're going to end up with hyperinflation, and they go and get into gold and silver. But the problem is, the governments will raid houses and confiscate gold and silver.
That's right.
So
That's right. That's exactly what they did in the States. They took everybody's gold, didn't they?
That's right. So what you've got to do is you've got to
get around that,
gold and then go and bury it in a hole in the garden or something.
Yeah, sure.
So they
yeah.
Or you just have it in jewellery. They don't take jewellery.
Ollie, can I just read this post out a minute about British troops?
Please, Barbara.
Says breaking news: Al Mayadeen TV reporting from Moscow a few hours ago. The reporter announced that Russian special forces entered Duma and has taken custody of British soldiers, in brackets, not to be confused with British terrorists. Some are dead, some are alive. This is an international incident. UK caught red-handed inside Duma. The Russian police are now securing the area.
Can you imagine?
What a surprise!
The OPCW has arrived to investigate the alleged chemical attack in Duma.
See if there's anything.
Send that link to everyone in Discord now before they take it off
I've
Facebook.
put it in Discord.
Okay, I'll show you what they're saying on RT. Chemical attack staged to provoke US airstrike. London pushed perpetrators. I don't think they caught up with the story you're talking about, Barbara. But this is a precursor to that.
The Russian ambassador on TV today, he accused the white helmets.
They are.
Hold on.
And then he said the UK back the white. They fund them. So I think that's where they're coming out.
I heard that white helmets of ISIS. I heard that, or what I read on some bits I looked at this, was that it was ISIS wearing white helmets and not white hats.
Yeah, there's pictures of them with McCain when he goes off to meet his ISIS friends, and there's also like pictures of John McCain. Is it John McCain? It is John McCain.
John McCain.
Yeah,
Senator.
Weinstein McCain.
Yeah.
Yeah. With these people that he knows from
that's an old photograph. That was about 2 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, and then you will see pictures of them as white helmets or as, you know, ISIS fighters.
Reporters, ISIS, yeah.
I think RT's story does have something to do with this, actually. Yeah, the Russian Defense Ministry have presented what it says is proof that the reported chemical weapons attack in Syria was staged. It also accused the British government of pressuring the perpetrators to speed up the provocation. During a briefing on Friday, the ministry showed interviews with two people who, it said, are medical professionals working in the only hospital operating in Douma, a town near the Syrian capital, Damascus. In the interviews released to the media, the two men reported how footage was shot of people dousing each other with... but that's not army personnel they're talking about there, but medical staff. Look, you know, blimey, it's Friday, and I got to take a bloody pee. I tell you what. I had to say, yeah, my plumbing is not the best. Yeah, an hour and a half, and oh, here we go. I want to say a big cheers to everybody, very, very much so, for popping on Discord tonight. God bless you. Anthony Stevenson McCann, Barbara Sherritt, Carl Stephen, Downliner, lovely to get you on the show, sir. Glenn, Rocky Teal, Lopi, Lynn Scott, and Predator Jeff. Thanks, guys. Thank you, all of you. Yeah.
Before we go, can I ask everybody to plant some flowers for the bees?
What's that, Lopi?
Yeah.
What's that?
Wildflowers for
Flowers
the bees.
for the bees for the spring, so that we can increase our bee population. Gotta love your bees.
God bless you. It's probably about the most important message on the show. If only we could trade politicians for more bees. I kill mosquitoes around here. I swear that they reincarnate as career politicians. Yeah, it is. This has been the Daily Brexit, and I am Olly Connelly, and I'll see you on Monday. Actually, no, I'll probably see you on Sunday. I'll be hanging around, checking out, making sure that we're getting this feed sorted out with Glenn, reporting from Speaker's Corner in London, with some developments I understand they're going to be quite interesting. And I also understand that Subri woman and Omana, they're putting together their bloody thing. Apparently there's going to be about 300 Ramon Artsy events tomorrow, yeah. We've got to compete, folks. Anyway, we'll be looking at that over the weekend. I'll see you on Monday, 6 o'clock on Facebook and YouTube. Whoa. Here's to us and bugger plutocracy. God bless you. Have an excellent weekend. Thank you, everybody.
No worries.